guys, for today's tutorial we're going to be making this tennis skirt. We're going to be using a weight 4 acrylic yarn. I'm using Big Twist here. I'm going to be using a 5mm crochet hook. We'll need some scissors, a needle, some stitch markers, and a measuring tape. And we're going to start with our measurements. You're going to need 2 measurements. That is going to be ignore all that, a waist measurement and a hip measurement. Okay, so take down those measurements. I'm going to be using a 35-inch waist and a 44-inch hip. And then because I'm using acrylic yarn or a stretchy yarn, I'm going to take off some measurements. I'm going to take 4 inches off of both. Okay, so these are going to be the measurements I'm working with. All right, and we're going to start with our waist measurement. And what we're going to do, we're going to take our yarn, I get a knot right in the beginning. Okay, we're going to take our yarn and we are going to start with a slip knot. All right, and then we're going to start by making a chain. This chain is going to be an even number of chains, and it is going to measure our waist measurement. And when we're taking this measurement, we're going to have our chain lightly stretched. Okay, so make a chain of even numbers that measures your waist measurement when it's lightly stretched. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll let you guys know how many chains I made. I finished my chain. I made 114 chains and stretched. That is going to get me my 31 inches. Oops, I'm completely off camera. I was measuring it. Okay, so I have 114 stitches. Go ahead and do yours. Make sure you have that even number. And then at this point, we're going to take our chain, and we're going to make sure it's not twisted, and we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. Okay, so I made my chain that reaches my waist measurement, so this stretches to my 31 inches. Okay, and then what we're going to do next, which again, make sure you have a even number. I made 116 chains, and then we're now going to make sure our chain is not twisted, and we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. Okay, so make sure your chain's not twisted, and then we're going to slip stitch so that we have a ring like this. Okay, and then this whole skirt is going to be made out of double crochets. So we are going to start by chaining 2. And then we're going to go around placing which you'll turn your work, chain 2, turn, and then we're going to go in every stitch placing a double crochet, starting with that very first stitch. The chain 2 did not count as a stitch, so we'll be placing our first double crochet into that same stitch. Okay, and then we're just going to go around placing 1 double crochet into every stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place my double crochets. Go ahead and do that until we get back to the beginning. And once we get to the back to the beginning, I'll show you guys what to do from there. All right, I'm placing my last double crochet. All right, and then once you're at the end, you've placed your last double crochet. We're going to slip stitch into the first double crochet space. Okay, and then it should look like this. Again, make sure it's not twisted before you get too far, but this is what we have now. Then now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to be working on the waistband. The chain 2 is never going to count as a stitch. And we're going to be alternating front post and back post double crochets for the waistband part. So we'll chain 2 into the first stitch. We're going to place a front post. So a front post, we're actually going to go behind the actual stitch. We're not going on top, we're going through the actual stitch, and we're going to place a double crochet. Okay, and then for the next stitch, we're going to place a back post. So this time, we're going to go this way through the back and place a double crochet. Okay, and I'll show you guys again. Front post, so our hook is in the front of our project going through the actual stitch. We're placing a double crochet. Back post, we're going through the back side of our project through the actual stitch and placing a double crochet. Front post, back post. Okay, and we're just going to repeat this all the way around. Again, we're alternating front post, back post, double crochets, and we're going to continue that until we get back to the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish that off camera, and then I'll meet you guys once we get to the end of this row. Once we get to the end, we should have a back loop double crochet. Alright, and then we're going to slip stitch again into the first double crochet of the row. So we're going to skip that chain 2 and go into the double crochet. Alright, and then for the next row, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the chain 2 space, of course, because it doesn't count. And then for this row and every row for the waistband, each front post that we did, we will be placing a front post right into that stitch. Okay, so into that front post with a front post, and into the back post with a back post. Okay, and we're just going to repeat that all the way around. And then we're just going to continue this for the waistband. It's really optional how thick you want your waistband. I think I'm going to make mine about 2 inches. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'm going to do 2 inches. I think that should be thick enough for my waistband. So that's probably going to take me like 3 rows or so. So at this point, just continue this. Continue your front post, back post. Again, in every front post, you're placing a front post, and in every back post, placing a back post. And then just continue that until you reach the thickness you want your waistband. That's completely optional, completely up to you. Again, I'm going to do 2 inches. So I'm going to finish my waistband, and then I'll meet you guys back, and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so I finished my waistband. I did 3 rows, which is getting me close to my 2 inches. It's giving me about 1 inch, and yeah, it's giving me more than 1.5 inches. So almost 2 inches. So decide how thick you want your waistband. That's completely up to you. Again, I did a total of 3 rows. Well, 4 if we count the first one. And then at this point, we're going to chain 2. And then we're not working on the waistband anymore. We're going on to the body of the skirt. So we're not going to be doing our front loop or our front post and back post double crochets anymore. We're now going to place a double crochet in every stitch, just a regular double crochet. So you chain 2, place your first double crochet in that same stitch, double crochet in the next, and we're just going to work our way all the way around, placing 1 double crochet in each stitch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and then I'll meet you guys back at the end of this row. All right, once I get to the end of my row, I'm going to slip stitch again into the first double crochet. Okay, and at this point, we're going to use our stitch markers and make sure you lay your project flat to where your seam is right here in the middle. And then usually if I'm making pants or shorts or something that needs to split in the middle, I will actually count my stitches to make sure I'm marking my corner spaces evenly. But since this is a skirt and it's not splitting anywhere, I'm just gonna eyeball it. You can go ahead if you want yours perfect, go ahead and count, find your corners, but I'm just gonna place a stitch marker in each corner. Just lay it flat and pick a corner stitch. Okay, and this is where we are going to start increasing. So this is where we'll need our hip measurement. So again, my hip measurement was 40. So take your hip measurement, and then since we are now working in a circle, so our measurement is in half, split your measurement in half. So mine's 40, so basically I am going to be measuring to 20 inches. Okay, so we're gonna start increasing until we reach that half of our hip measurement. And again, when measuring, that is gonna be stretched. All right, so we are going to continue the same thing. We're gonna chain 2 and place a double crochet in every stitch, all the way until we get to the stitch marker. All right, and then once we get to the stitch marker, we're gonna take that stitch marker out and we're going to do an increase. So we're gonna place 2 double crochets into that stitch. And then we'll take our stitch marker, place that back into the first double crochet we placed in that stitch. Okay, so 2 double crochets into that stitch marker space is going to give us our increase. And then we're just going to continue with placing 1 double crochet in each stitch. Okay, and we're going to continue this all the way around until we get to the other stitch marker. Once we get to the other stitch marker, we will once again place our increase, which will be 2 double crochets into that stitch marker space, and then place your stitch marker back into that first double crochet. Okay, and then that's going to be our increase row. And then at this point, we're going to be alternating between increase row and a solid double crochet row. So that means no increases, just like the row before. And we're going to continue that until we reach our hip measurement, until this part stretches to your half hip measurement. Okay, so just go ahead and alternate rows, alternate between your increase row and a regular row, and just continue repeating until you get to your measurement. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then once I get there, I'll tell you guys how many rows I did, and we'll move on from there. All right, I finished my increase rows to reach my hip measurement, and this is measuring, for me, yours may be different, about 5 inches. I'm gonna leave it at that. If you do want this portion to be longer, just go ahead and continue regular rows. Once you reach your hip measurement, just continue regular rows, no increases, until this is as thick as you want it. And then now we're gonna start on the pleats, which we will start by making a ruffle. So for these rows, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to be doing increases. So we're going to alternate. We're going to do, once again, the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So in that first stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochets. In the next, we're going to do 3. In the next, we're going to do 2. And then in the next, we're going to do 3 again. Okay, and then we're just going to repeat this all the way around. We're going to be alternating between 2 double crochets in one stitch, and then 3 double crochets in one stitch. And we're just going to alternate this all the way until we get back to the beginning. And you'll see it's starting to create a ruffle. Okay, so just go ahead and repeat your alternating rows, or your alternating stitches, until we get back to the beginning of this row. I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and then I'll meet you guys back. Alright, I just finished my last increase row. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the first double crochet. And as you can see, it is now starting to ruffle. Okay, so at this point, and for the rest of our skirt, we're going to chain 2. And then this time we're just going to go around, placing 1 double crochet in each stitch. So no more increases. We're just going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch. And we're going to repeat this over and over again, just continuing double crochet rows until we reach our length, which is completely optional. So just go ahead and continue until you reach the length of the skirt that you want. I'm going to go ahead and finish mine, then we'll measure, and we'll go from there. But again, we're just placing 1 double crochet in each stitch now, so no more increases. Okay, I've reached the length of my skirt, so I'm just going to cut my yarn, fasten off, and then just for reference for you guys, my entire skirt now measures about 12 inches. Now this is short, but that is the look I'm going for. You can make yours longer if you'd like, but mine is 12 inches, and this ruffly part was like 6.5 inches. Okay, but at this point you'll now need your needle, and then we're just going to weave in any ends, and then we're pretty much done. Just going to weave this in really quick. All right, I'm going to go ahead and weave in my ends, and then I'm going to go ahead and style it, and I'll show you guys what it looks like on. Okay, but this is what it looks like. Okay, I'm gonna go style it, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry I didn't get around to styling it, but here it is on my little mannequin. This is what it looks like. Again, mine is mini. You can make yours long. You could even make it maxi if you wanted, but this is the final look. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Sway.